weak mindset does not determine whether you are going to be successful in your weight loss journeys. Trust me when I say this, I have helped thousands of patients over the years, both with strong and weak mindsets starting out. You have to understand that your mind is like a muscle. And in the beginning of any weightlifting program, your muscles were weak. Well, they get stronger, and so does your mind. And understanding that and how to do it is going to be your ticket for successful weight loss. So let's get into it. Let's get into the role of mindset with regards to your weight loss. Everything starts here. Oh my gosh, it's such a big deal to understand this. And everybody spends so much time training and talking about the actual physical universe activities, the stuff, the things that we need to do, what to eat, what not to eat, fasting, all that stuff. And look, all that stuff is great. But remember, actions and behaviors, where do they start? They start right here. So a successful weight loss program that doesn't include training in the mindset with the specific perspective of achieving lasting weight loss, though, that's not the best weight loss program. And so we have a ton of content that we're going to be putting out for you guys with regards to weight loss and mindset, because this is where it starts. Okay, so mindset. Let's first look at a fact that might be hard to understand or difficult to accept, but everything, your ability to produce in life, all can come from mindset. Literally, a 400-pound morbidly obese individual potentially could mindset their way to success. And when we look at the data, right, the data actually backs this up. Look at this study right here where they literally looked at weight loss, because remember, maintaining weight loss has always been this very elusive thing. In fact, in case you didn't know, only 20% of people after several years of losing weight actually maintain their weight loss. Freaking crazy and kind of sad, right? And so they did a study looking at successful weight loss maintainers. And as you can see, what they found was a set of various characteristics, but one of which is strong mindset, good emotional control. Support is also a big piece of it too as well. But I want to highlight the mindset part of it, right? Because this is what they had to rely on in the various difficulties and obstacles that they endured. Now, little side note, remember, most of these studies and most approaches towards weight loss are not focused on hormones, which is why it's so freaking difficult. And I have several videos talking about that. But nonetheless, that fuels my point that I'm trying to make is, despite all of the physiological and physical barriers in front of us, and they are very real, I'm not just saying the only thing you need to worry about is mindset. But what I am reminding you is setting the totem pole, is establishing some framework that, technically speaking, the stronger you can get your mindset, the better you are going to be at achieving lasting weight loss. And spoiler alert, this doesn't just apply to weight loss. This also applies to freaking life as well. A lot of the tips and tricks that we're going to be going over are going to spill over into many various categories. But the focus and why you're probably here is achieving lasting weight loss. And so I'm going to make it and have it centered around that as well. But very, very powerful tools. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer towards watching today's video. I want you to watch it for the first time with zero analyzation of what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing. We're going to get into a lot of various pieces of mindset. And the truth of the matter is, if you are achieving lasting weight loss, you probably don't need to make various strong and aggressive changes, some of the things that I'm going to talk about here. Maybe you'll take this information and apply it to other categories of your life, because life has this also unique perspective and thing that exists where sometimes you're really focused and there's no barriers on one category, and in other categories you're completely just failing miserably, right? So maybe that's the case. But in any situation, I want you to watch this through the first time through with the objective of just learning these pieces of information, how they could work for you. And then afterwards, then you can make a decision for yourself, whether it's with you want to work with us or on your own. What pieces do I need to implement? Do I need to go 100% hardcore dive in? Like this is the most important thing? Well, I think everybody should take weight loss that serious for themselves. But if you're already losing weight and you're already very structured and you're already doing really good, then like I said, This is an individual thing, but I want you to make that decision at the end of today's video. I want that promise from you guys. Okay, so I have a whole section dedicated to talking about the separation between you and your mind. And this is so important to understand that I put it in front of everything else. So, and this gets deep, ladies and gentlemen, like we can get religious here, we can get philosophical here, and I don't want to go down that path too much, but many religions talk about it in different versions and different ideas, different faiths talk about this concept of a soul or a spirit. There's a lot of mention of this, right? So something is there, right? I happen to be a believer that to my core, that I am not my body. I am the thing that runs my body. And the most important part of our body is the brain, because it's super easy to separate ourselves from every other part of the body. But the brain, the mind, that is difficult sometimes to separate from you, because you are a spiritual being and you think, and your mind also thinks. Is your mind a person? Well, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but the reality is you have to understand and appreciate, and you have to believe. You have to believe that you are not your mind. And this is what consciousness is to begin with, like the awareness of self, right? Your mind is not you. So your mind is a computer. You can think of it as a computer, as a robot, however you want to look at it, but it is a computing machine. It is non-stop working at a capacity that we still can't replicate from computers. Yes, computers can store more data and computers can think faster, but there's still a tremendous amount of things, creativity, putting ideas together, stringing them together, right? That human brains far exceed AI. And it's going to be a scary world when AI and technology can do that part of it, because they can do everything else already so much better. So the mind is constantly thinking, is constantly solving problems so that you have conclusions that you can string together and navigate around successfully, right, to the best of your ability in the physical universe. So the first person that always comes to mind when I think about this mind over matter concept is David Goggins. Holy crap. David Goggins is an inspiration, to say the least. And if you guys don't know who he is, definitely check him out. But he's probably, I would say, without a doubt, the strongest individual probably on this planet. Strongest is not a representation of physical strength. This man is probably the mentally strongest individual on this planet. The things that he does is just insane. He sets the bar for human potential, which is amazing, because sometimes we are so self-doubting and self-limiting that we forget what is on the table, what human beings are actually capable of. And we just doubt. And we're going to get into all that later, but it's really nice and it's fresh. And don't worry, I'm not trying to, at the end of this video, have you become David Goggins. Like, I know that's not real and that's not possible. That's not the goal of today, but he is an inspiration. And so take it for what it is. But what he does best is he exercises his ability to mind over matter. He is constantly doing things that he does not want to do. That's the mind, right? The mind has thoughts, feelings, and those feelings drive actions. And we are going to talk about thoughts, feelings, and actions and motivation here in a little bit. But regardless of what your mind is doing, regardless of the thoughts and the feelings and the motivation that you either have or you don't have, you are not your mind. And David Goggins does this every single day, where he gets up in the morning and he says, I'm going to run for 50 freaking miles. 50 miles. The man is out of control, but I love it. And if you guys don't know who Andrew Huberman is, one of the many mentors that I have a ton of respect for, where he likes to put things into a scientific format for us to learn. You should definitely check out his podcast if you aren't already. But there was an interview between David Goggins and Andrew Huberman. And Andrew Huberman was talking about the science, meaning not the spirit, right? Not the whatever you want to call it, you, but your body and your mind, things that we can test, right? And they identified some really cool parts in the brain, right? This really cool parts, but it's cool to me. I think it's exciting. I hope you are. But they identified this part of the brain that literally gets bigger So it's not just firing, but it's actually growing in response to doing the things that you don't want to do. Let's check out this clip.
I'm going to share a little neuroscience tidbit.
Love it.
But I think it's one that you'll appreciate. Most people don't know this, but there's a brain structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. As we pointed out before, that's a noun, it's a name, it doesn't mean anything. Right. We could call it the Cookie Monster.
Right.
But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans, not some mouse study, showing that when people do something they don't want to do, like add 3 hours of exercise per day or per week, or when people who are trying to diet and lose weight resist eating something.
Right.
When people do anything that they, and this is the important part, that they don't want to do.
Right.
It's not about adding more work, it's about adding more work that you don't want to do.
Yes.
This brain area gets bigger.
Yep.
Now here's what's especially interesting about this brain area to me. And by the way, I'm only learning this recently because it's new data, but there's a lot of it. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet. It's larger in athletes. It's especially large or grows larger in people that see themselves as challenged and overcome some challenge.
Right.
And in people that live a very long time, this area keeps its size. In many ways, scientists are starting to think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower,
right,
but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Isn't that like, I think it's, again, I get really excited about this stuff, but the things that we already knew existed, the things that we were talking about of mind over matter, now we have some scientific validation that something is taking place. But this is what they can't test, right? What's causing that, right? How is it that David Goggins is able to do the things that he doesn't want to do? How is he able to overcome and override his thoughts, feelings, and motivation, right? His motivation almost every morning is not to go run for 50 miles. And that motivation is driven by feelings and thoughts. But he overrides it because he understands, probably better than anybody else, that he is not his body and that he exercises the control over his body. And he executes on that every single day. So for me, I thought this clip was an amazing representation of this concept and putting it all together for you guys, that you are not your body. You are the thing that runs your body. And the more deep and esoteric and philosophical you get with that, I think the more powerful you become. And guys, lasting weight loss, I already said, it's freaking difficult. 80% of people regain their weight back. And we talked about what characteristics we find. We find mentally strong people in that 1 out of 5. So this is how we get strong, is first understanding there's a separation. Okay, now let's talk about thoughts, feelings, and motivations, actions. I'm going to put them in the same category. You could say the motivation comes first and then the actions. I like to put those in the same category. So what is a thought? Let's start with that, because thoughts are very, very powerful ideas, right? Unfortunately, though, our thoughts are the starting point of either tremendous positive direction or negative, right? Because it is thoughts that lead to feelings. What are feelings? Feelings are thoughts that carry emotion along with them. So think of feelings as your reaction, your emotional reaction to whatever thoughts that you have. And it's those emotionally driven feelings that lead to either extra motivation or lack of motivation. But at the end of the day, it leads to your actions. Everything, all of your activity and actions are fueled in one way, shape, or form by feelings. But we just said that thoughts were at the beginning. Pretty powerful, right? So as much as we think of things, and by the way, your brain is thinking of 50, 60,000 different ideas a day, right? You aren't even consciously aware of a lot of these thoughts, and consciously you are, but a lot of computing is happening up there. So a thought, we have to understand that a thought is not factual. A thought is not truth. A thought isn't truth until you decide it's truth, not your mind. And we have to understand that. And now, if you didn't realize it already until watching this now, you have, unfortunately, a lot of negative thoughts that your mind made. I almost said you, but your mind made at some point, whether you were 1 year old, 2 years old, or whether it just happened last week. And that gets on a whole nother tangent and rabbit hole. But we have to understand the structure and framework of a thought. I always like to use the analogy of research and literature, right? Before we get randomized human control studies, we have mechanistic studies. Before we have mechanistic studies, there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, but just kind of generalizing, you have high-level research, you have sort of your mechanistic studies and your case studies, which we're starting to learn, but it's still not, like, we know it's not fact yet. And before that, you have a hypothesis, a theory, an idea. Do you know how many ideas medical researchers or just researchers and scientists have had that never panned out, that they found out down a path of exploration and science and discovery that they were not true? A lot. The same thing should be said with respect to your mind. But unfortunately, many of the thoughts that you have are being accepted as truths. And you didn't even get an opportunity to have a conversation and a discussion and look at it and say, whoa, what? That's not true. I'm not a piece of... How many times have you guys felt like you had that feeling there at one time or place, right? I'm not an idiot. So we constantly have these thoughts that are being produced by our mind that are leading to negative feelings. And we're going to talk here in a little bit about practical steps and things that we can do, that we can execute on to change to flip the script and get improvement in this. Because I'm telling you right now, I can almost guarantee improvement in weight loss and many other areas in your life by taking this to heart, taking this to core, understanding the theory and the structure, and then executing on the steps that we're going to get into here in a little bit. Okay, feelings. So the thoughts are one piece, but they're the starting point, right? But it's the feelings that have the charge. It's the feelings that are our emotion, and it's the feelings that drive the actions or the lack of actions that we need to do to execute and be successful in life. And we just need to understand that you didn't get a chance or an opportunity to choose your feelings, right? They just happen. The majority of feelings were not a conscious choice that you made. They were reactions to situations and thoughts and ideas that you had that have taken place. Feelings are also not factual, okay? Just like thoughts, feelings are also not factual until you decide that they are factual and that you agree with them. Because again, you have the power to exercise control over your mind. So just like thoughts, feelings are a thing that you can change your framework and react differently to. But again, it understands the mechanics of how these two interrelate. I wanted to interrupt the show to tell you guys about the free resources that I have for you to be successful in 2024. The link in the show notes is going to provide you a way to join the free Facebook community. We do weekly live training. It's a great community. We'll answer all your questions with or without the medications. We're going to help you get there. And there's a free PDF which breaks down the steps so that you know exactly what to do, how to do it to be absolutely successful this year for your weight loss goals. Now back to the show. All right, so let's get into some real mindset tools. And let's just get into it. I mean, this stuff is awesome. And I hope you guys are enjoying this content so far. Let me know in the comments if you are excited and have already exercised or included mindset, or maybe this is something that you've never really thought about and you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, like this, I got to do this. Let me know in the comments either way. Okay, so let's dive into goal setting, right? Because it all starts there, right? We have to execute on our goals. Okay, so step number 1 of our tools, of our powerhouse of tools, is making a decision and not looking back. It's so crazy and it's so wild to me. If you don't know who I am already, and this is your first time watching my video, I lost 100 pounds when I was 16 years old. And it was something that I hated being overweight for so many years prior, but I just never made the decision. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be, I hated myself being an overweight person, but for some reason, I just could never just go in on the decision until one day when I hit 300 pounds and I had this like come to Jesus moment, and I'll never forget that day where the scale broke 300, and for some reason that was so impinging on me that I was like, holy shit, I'm 300 pounds, I'm 302, and really going down a path of no return. And so I made a decision that moment. That was it. Look, everybody has their own points in life where something can automatically create that. But again, right, that kind of happened as my reaction, but you can make the choice. You need to make the choice to go all in, because being half in, having your foot and your toes into the water is only setting you up for failure in the future for both whatever program you're doing, but more importantly for yourself. Like, you've been there, you've done that. I know this is not your first time and your first rodeo looking at starting a weight loss program, whether you start ours or whether you start someone else's. You need to go all in, head first. Don't look back, because that is only going to interfere with your success. You do your research before you start a program so that you feel comfortable with that program, right? But once you get in, you go in. None of this lollygagging, half in, half out, looking at this program, looking at that program. No, stop that. Let's go in and let's not look back. Okay, now you got that down. You're committed. Let's establish some goals. So goal setting is very powerful when you do it right, because it's like that never-ending supply, and so is the why, right? The goal and the why go hand in hand, but the goal and the why, once you really get it and you really hit it, it's this endless supply of intrinsic motivation, which is what we need. We need intrinsic motivation. We need as much motivation as we can get, and that externally from support is great, but really intrinsic would be the most powerful. And having a powerful goal and why allows you to execute on this, okay? So we're going to do an activity here. You are going to find 10 to 20 minutes, undisturbed time, put your phone on silence, get a pen and paper out, and just be there with yourself and figure out exactly what goal you are trying to accomplish. Let me do a little side note here because it really relates. You ever see those coaches and programs that talk about set realistic goals and things like that? And I get it, right? Set a realistic goal because then you can hit it and you don't feel like bullshit. Like, that is bullshit. That's the easy way out. All right. The bar needs to be set as high as you, not your mind, not the thing that's trying to prevent you from having a reaction that your mind thinks might be negative in the future. If you want a mother effing six pack, then that's your goal. If you're a woman and you don't want a six pack, but you want toned arms and you want your triceps coming out, then that's your goal. Don't bullshit yourself. Don't sugarcoat it. Okay. We don't need to lower the bar. Like this idea that we need to be lowering the bar and everybody's happy and afraid to say the uncomfortable things. And with that sort of mentality, you're not going to get as far in life as you would otherwise. So now you might be asking, Dr. Jones, I get it. A lot of hoorah there, but how do I deal with the fact that I'm probably never going to have a six pack, right? Because you basically just said to a 400-pound obese man that if you want a six pack, that you should be driving towards that. And you better believe it. I did say that. Okay. So now let's bring it together. We have to change our understanding and an idea behind how we look at this, right? First of all, a couple different things I like to say. You ever heard that expression, shoot for the stars and land in the clouds? I love that. I love that because there is something to be said about that. There is something to take away from that. It's not the most ideal scenario to not actually hit your goal and always setting goals that are unattainable. Some people can't handle that. If you can handle always having the bar high and being happy, well then great, you should always do that. But I think most people, that would be somewhat discouraging to always set goals that are unattainable and be happy with where they're at. So I'm not saying, if that's you, to do that all the time. But what I am saying is occasionally doing that, especially with something like your health and your life in front of you, is very, very powerful. So putting the bar high does not mean that you are a failure if you don't hit it. And that's the key. That's the takeaway, right? General idea, concept, I would say truth. Most of us agree. If you establish a goal and you attempt to reach out for it and you don't hit it, that's a failure, right? That's a loss, right? You didn't beat the video game. You didn't beat the game. And that loss is something that stacks up over time, right? So that's where the concept comes from of lowering the bar, right? So that you can get more wins. But I just talked about why that's bullshit and why you shouldn't do that. So you need to change the way that you perceive the attainment of something that's lower than what you strived for. It's just a frame of reference. It's a different agreement with yourself. Just remind yourself, you freaking set the bar for a six-pack as a 450-pound obese individual. If you end up with a flat stomach, that's pretty damn good, right? Are you really going to take a loss from that? So we can't apply the same principles that the weak-minded people apply, because you are not weak, believe it or not. You've just been convinced by yourself, and you've allowed that thought to seep in. If you are thinking that about yourself, I'm not saying everybody watching this is weak, but you get my point. If you are somebody that doesn't think that they're strong, that's bullshit. You need to change that right now, and I'm going to do everything that I can to help you. So just keep watching the rest of this video. Okay, so now that you got that done with, now that you understand the setting the bar high, we go back to our experiment. We're undisturbed, and we figure out what that goal is, and really get honest and straight with yourself and write that down and look at it and read it a couple times. And I promise you, when you're reading your goal, and it is your truthful goal, not that shortcut that your mind is trying to tell you want out of a fear of failing, right? You will feel good. You will brighten up. Now, if you want to do the second part of this right then and there, great. If you want to have some time to just kind of let yourself be with the goal, that's fine too. But now we move on to the why. The why is even more powerful, right? We talked about thoughts and feelings. You can think of that here, where your goal, right, is this thought, this idea, but the why is usually the feelings, okay? Why do you want to drop 200 pounds, okay? What is the why behind that? Are you being told by the doctor that your health is declining? Are you diabetic? Are you on blood pressure medications? Are you on cholesterol medications? Are you trending very poorly? Do you really think that you're going to get to see your grandkids grow up and go to their high school graduation? Is that a thought that you've actually, and if you haven't, ask yourself that right now. And if you don't have anything but pure confidence that isn't a reality, well, what the hell are you doing? Because this is serious business. This is your health. This is your life, right? You only get one, depending on what sort of religious and philosophical perspective you have, but we got one body, right? And you are its maker. And so you need to protect it. You need to nurture it. You need to cherish it. And the why is a big deal, right? So you will experience emotion when you do this, usually most of the time. And that's experience it. Don't analyze it. Don't overthink it. Let yourself feel whatever feelings that you feel. And by the time you're done, you should feel better. Write down your goal and write down your why. It's very important. You're going to be referencing this a lot, not just in today's video, but for the remainder of your weight loss program. Okay, so a third activity, again, if you're feeling like you can continue from 1 to 2 to 3, great. If you need more time, usually with the why, that's the one that really impinges and a lot of emotion. And when you go through your emotion, you're probably going to be exhausted afterwards. So this might be a different day. But when you're ready, we're going to take that why to the next level. And we're going to ask ourselves, what's going to happen in 10 years from now if I don't do this? What's going to happen if I don't reverse my diabetes, my pre-diabetes, and lose 150 pounds? Where am I going to be at in 10 years? Am I even going to be here in 10 years if I don't do this? Or is it not so much that I think I'm dead within 10 years, but I think the state that I'm going to be in is just insane? Whatever it is, you need to get honest and straight with yourself and ask yourself that question. It's shitty. It ain't going to feel good, but use that as some freaking motivation to not let that happen. Now, we're going to flip it to a positive here. What's going to happen in 10 years if you did this now? How awesome is life going to be? How many different things are going to be in your universe because you made this choice, you executed, you lost your weight, you got healthy, you improved your confidence? How much more would that help your marriage? How much more would that improve your attitude towards life and your relationship with your kids? Because I can tell you right now, we know how horrible and unsuccessful marriages are and how devastating the divorce rates are. And we already know divorce is more than 50, but when you look at the actual people that are married, how many of them are actually happy? What percentage of marriages are unhappy because one spouse or another has lost sexual attraction because the other partner let their bodies go? Now, let is an interesting word because obesity is a disease and, yada, yada, yada. I have separate videos talking about that. It is a disease, but you let it happen. And you should definitely check those videos out if you want to learn more about that. So I think you, your family, your significant others, and more importantly, bringing it back to you, deserve to feel and look the way that you want. And the concept that your looks shouldn't affect your feelings, that's bullshit too. That really has to do with the whole lowering the bar, lowering the standards, and let's appease everybody instead of telling them, right, what they need to hear, right? Do you want the friend that knows you're on a diet and sees you in a weak moment and lets you grab 4 Oreos? Or do you want the friend, I don't know if you guys have seen that funny TikTok video, but I'm going to show just a clip of it right here.
Tomorrow said big and fat, man. Like, yo, bro, what you doing, man? Why you eating that, bro?
Yeah, we don't need to be that aggressive. We don't need to be slapping food out of people's plates and ridiculing them. No, don't do that. But wouldn't you appreciate the friend that has enough toughness and tenacity within them to say, hey, John, I know you said you're really serious about the diet. I'm just looking out for you, man. Are you working those Oreos in there? Is that part of the plan? You know, I love you, bro. You know, you're my boy, whoever you are, or whatever kind of relationship you have, right? I don't know about you guys. I'll take the friend all day, every day that's willing to tell me the tough things and the hard things because they're looking out for me and they're not just thinking about, well, what do I want to hear? Okay, so now let's talk about journaling. Journaling is something, and I don't care whether you're writing it with a pen and paper, physical medium, or on your phone, or you're recording notes. Like it doesn't matter. But journaling, taking time to document in any form thoughts and feelings that you catch yourself thinking and feeling is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do in terms of your weight loss. Here's why. Again, we talked about it. You are thinking and feeling a lot throughout the day. And unfortunately, because you are busy executing on life and doing everything you got to do, you don't have time to really exercise conscious awareness over those. They're on autopilot. Remember, you're not your mind. You're the thing that runs your mind. So journaling is a great opportunity to do this. Now, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. If you want to have journal time, 5 minutes in the morning, middle of the day, end of the day, me personally, right? If I was to restart a weight loss program and watch myself in this video right now, I would be journaling all the time, right? So that's totally fine too. Like if you understand the concept of what I'm saying, that journaling allows you to just find and discover the problems that need to be fixed, then who says you can't journal all the time, right? So I recommend you find one time per day, part of a bedtime routine, 5 minutes, that's it, and reflect. But if you also want to take it to the next level, you can also have this agreement with yourself that if you do find an idea, something negative, or a thought, that you're going to journal it. Now, after doing that, right, you are going to find themes. There's only so many negative feelings you can have about yourself, but there's hundreds of ideas you can have, right? So the more and more you do this, the more and more you'll be like, oh yeah, I already wrote that down, blah, 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 right? You want to get on paper in front of you, to the best of your ability, the most amount of ideas and negative feelings that you have so that you know what you can work with and what needs to be fixed, right? We talked earlier about thoughts and ideas, how they lead to emotionally fueled feelings, which ultimately are going to be the things that are motivating or unmotivating the actions and behaviors that you decide to do or don't decide to do, okay? So we understand that relationship, and now we're journaling as much as we can so that we can get in front of us those ideas and be able to actually analyze them, handle them, okay? So remember, we also talked about these feelings and these ideas. They're not facts. They're not factual, right? You are the one that decides whether they're factual or not. So guess what? After doing this for enough time, you are going to have the things, the ideas and the feelings that you need to agree or disagree. And obviously in the situation, we're talking about looking back at ideas and feelings that you made agreements to at some point, and you're not going to remember this, and now you're changing it. Okay, so once you have the ideas and the feelings, you can now move on to a handle, into a resolution, okay? So Fixing ideas is you saying to yourself that you don't feel that way, that you don't agree with that, right? So if you have this tendency to put yourself down because you have an issue with public speaking and you're just a horrible public speaker and you find yourself thinking that and saying that all the time, well, then you're always going to be a horrible public speaker, right? But if you know deep down that you should be better, right? Now's your chance to change that idea, right? I'm a good public speaker, okay? Anytime that you feel whatever, the anxiety, the fear, all those things that we know public speakers have a difficult time doing, right? Let yourself feel those. Because guess what? You're not going to be able to fully remove all your negative thoughts, all your negative feelings. That I don't even think the best psychotherapists and psychotherapies out there and spiritual healings could do that, although they have potentials to dive into this much more. This is you only exercising your own ability to improve yourself. There are many more technologies out there that can deal with the mind specifically, but you do have the ability yourself to improve your condition and improve your relationship with your mind, and this is definitely one of them. So we're not going to be able to rid ourselves of all the negative feelings. We will reduce them with the things that you're learning in this video. But the other powerful thing about this is being able to tolerate them, being able to handle the negative feelings. You don't realize this, but your body, right? Like the whole thing, you avoid negative feelings so much more than you realize. Even just anxiousness and boredom, right? You start tapping, you start doing nervous tendency. There's all these little things that you do, right? To not experience the boredom itself. It's kind of crazy. So let yourself feel the feelings. This activity, you're going to have to go through this activity over and over and over. And the more and more you let yourself experience various emotions, the stronger you will become at being able to tolerate those various emotions and feelings. And that's the big crux of it is we want to approach our thoughts, right? And our ideas. We want to find out if some of these ideas are even true. It's kind of crazy when you do this, but you might discover that you have ideas that you sit there and actually reflect, because again, you never do this, you've never done this activity, right? But you look at some of your ideas and you realize, wait a minute, I'm not that, I'm not a mean person, right? I was mean in my past, but for the last 2 years, I've been doing so much to become a nicer person. Why do I keep, where did that, like, when you're looking at it, you're like, but you realize you produced that, you wrote that down because that was a thought and a feeling that you carry, and you're still operating potentially like an older version of yourself. And so sometimes what's really cool about this activity is simply just giving you a chance to allow your mind to see that some of the ideas that it has are just wrong. And your mind is very logical and very rational. You also have another part of that, and that an irrational and illogical part of your mind too as well, but that's for another video. So the logical part of your mind, once it sees the data and the information in front of us, it's like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. And it may not happen as easy as that. It may take time, but many improvements will come from really isolating this, taking the time to journal, bringing out your ideas and feelings that we need to work on, and then experiencing the feelings, changing our ideas and decisions, and making new agreements with ourselves and new conclusions that we can then operate off of moving forward.
Quick minute here. I wanted to tell you guys about my free resources to help you guys with your sustainable weight loss goals. I have a free Facebook community where I do weekly live coaching. It's all about helping you hit your goals and maintain your weight for the rest of your life. And I also have a free PDF where I break down step by step exactly what it takes for you to be successful. I'll put a link to this in the show, and we'll see you guys back in the show.
All right, so now let's go into some more tools, some of my favorite tools that are a little easier to understand and implement. Okay, so let's look at every failure as an opportunity, okay? I know you've heard this, but I really want you to get this, because yes, failure is a thing that is by definition the lack of success, and it doesn't feel good, and no one's happy about it. When you play a game, you want to win. I get that. Okay. We all know that. But a lot of individuals, in fact, probably most individuals, take that too far, and they allow the failures, right? And this is their mind talking and not them. See, I told you, I told you, you shouldn't have set the bar so high. See, look, you're failing. Just stop right now. Just stop while you're ahead. Oh my gosh. If you have a friend that talks to you like that, you need to get rid of that friend right now. That's a horrible friend. That's not your friend. But we're talking about you and your mind, right? And so we can't think that way, right? Every opportunity, every failure is an opportunity. That's the way I look at it all the time, right? I almost chuckle at it because every time I fail, so we're talking about weight loss, for example. So the failure that I'm really thinking of right now is I'm going to go to that social setting and I'm just going to have, if it's alcohol, one beer and a chicken plate, like you plan it out, right? Or if alcohol's on the equation, you're going to the setting, you've earned enough calories. So you're like, I'm going to have the lasagna plate, great, and I'm going to have a big salad, and that's it, right? And then all of a sudden you find out you had the lasagna, you had 5 pieces of bread, you got a dessert, you had a glass of wine, okay? You did horrible. You failed miserably. So what though, right? If you believe that every failure is an opportunity to do better, then you don't take it as such a loss. You look back the next day, and I strongly recommend you do this if we're talking about situations like this, that at some point, maybe you do this once a week, right? Where you have a scheduled time with yourself and you reflect on social settings or times where you did fail, times where you couldn't execute on your plan, and just figure out what could you do better, right? Is it the restaurant choice that you made? Was it the attitude that you had before the dinner? Try your best to isolate what you could do differently, what could have been done different so that you have a plan moving forward. And the moment you do that, that eliminates the little bit of negativity that you did have on it because you're like, okay, great. Well, that's not going to happen next time, as opposed to just sulking on it and letting it bring you down. Instead, you let it bring you down just a little bit. And then you do something that actually sets you up for more success so that you're even stronger than you were before the freaking negative thing happened, right? Every failure is an opportunity to do better. You need to get that down to your core. Okay, another tool that I like is being structured, right? It kind of relates to the last thing we were talking about, where, and one of my quotes that I would say maybe top 15, top 20 quotes is failing to plan is like planning to fail. Oh man, and we've heard that one, right? But it's so true because we think about food, right? And we think about temptations to fail to eat the way we want to eat, right? Or exercise as much as we want, or fast for as long as we want to fast. We have the plan, right? But we don't do as well, right? Or we don't have a plan at all, right? So your body, remember we talked about your mind, is a computing machine, and it appreciates and desires structure. The more structure we have, the better it exists, the better it operates. So be structured to the best of your ability, because the next thing we're going to talk about is sustainability, right? So exercise structure up to the point that you think is realistic for yourself. And that means, for example, planning that what are you going to eat if you're at a new restaurant? What kind of options do they have there? Are you with people that eat healthy, or are you with people that don't eat healthy? That's a big one, by the way, because you have those friends that eat healthy and you have those friends that don't, okay? So figuring those things out requires a little bit of planning, requires a little bit of effort, but that structure and plan that you have, not just only for those one-offs, but also your regular week to week, right? Who's cooking dinner? What are they cooking? Is it healthy? Does it meet the food spectrum? And if you're following my program, you know that it's all about reducing processed foods, right? If you're the one that prepares food, what are you preparing? Did you plan it out? Are you just thinking on the whim in the middle of the day? Today, I feel like eating, chicken parmesan, and I'm going to make it healthy. I think some people could maybe thrive off that. You might have a career in cooking if you are someone like that. But the reality is that you are more likely to not plan and not execute the best meals you could without taking the time to plan. So take the time, guys, structure and plan things out and now going on to the next tool, sustainable. Sustainability is so crucial. Again, I've talked about it. I've lost 100 pounds and I failed to keep it off for about 10 years before I finally got stability in my weight. And it's because the method that I did before just wasn't sustainable. Okay. 4 to 5 meals a day, counting calories, counting macros, cardio in the morning, weightlifting in the afternoon. Like, that fucking sucks. I'm just going to say it, like, that was awful. I did it. And boy, was I pumped and motivated, but that sucked. And I know a lot of you you're probably going, Dr. Jones, I feel you. I'm feeling it right now. I'm feeling it because he gets it. No, and I do. That's not sustainable for most people. I appreciate and respect bodybuilders because what they do is just, and if you notice like what they do, that's all they do because it takes so much effort. Okay. And it's so difficult. So it's not sustainable. So whatever program you're going to do, you better do something that's sustainable for yourself. You do need to get honest and straight with yourself. You need to find that balance because where it gets tricky is the definition of sustainability for yourself might be brought down by your mind. So try your best to recognize when that's happening. Hopefully the activities you did earlier, right? What can I really do versus what am I fluffing with myself? Like figure that out, right? There's definitely something to be said about sustainable being relative to what you think you can do and what you end up actually doing. But what you actually do is dependent on what you think you can do, right? So we got to find that balance and be sustainable, but still try not to lower the bar too much as well. Okay, so there's going to be a bumpy road here. And so this next tool is just understanding that weight loss is never linear. Weight loss is going to be very inconsistent. And I tell my patients all the time, 1 week, no weight loss, don't even worry about it. 2 weeks is when we start to grow the initial concern. But even then, 2 to 3 weeks, okay, there's a problem. We need to get in there and fix it. So bumpy roads in front of you, stay consistent, right? Understand and just know that it's not going to be consistent is the tool that you need to get down and understand so that you have the ability to stay consistent. Okay. So the final tools that I'm going to save for a separate video is going to be manifestation, right? So manifesting via affirmations. And I'll do like probably a 10 to 20 minute video on that. But I hope you guys found this helpful, even with just what we talked about here today. This is the most comprehensive overview I've ever done on mindset. So I'm really pumped and excited, and I hope you guys find it valuable. If you're looking for a structured approach towards lasting weight loss, look no further. I have a 94% success rate with me and my medical practitioners. We help patients across the nation with lasting weight loss. A lot of people, most are using semaglutide, tirzepatide, GLP-1 medications, and those are freaking amazing. I put out a ton of content regarding those meds, but not being stuck on them for the rest of their life. That's sort of what we're the only clinics really doing that. So whether you're on these medications, thinking about using them or not using them at all, if lasting weight loss is what you're looking for, then click that link and put it in the show notes. I have a lot of cool offers that we can do for you there, helping you with your weight loss plateaus, helping you wean off the medications or just lasting weight loss. There's some opportunities there. Get yourself scheduled for a free consultation. We'll see you guys later.